भेजा copy.
BowmanDigitalMedia.com. Hello, everybody. Welcome to a special episode, really, of Ask Ira Job Seeker Q&A. What makes it special? Well, here's the deal. A lot of you are watching from around the world, and your dream is to relocate from where you are to somewhere else. Usually it's the United States or Canada for the people that are reaching out to me, but I get people asking me about how to relocate all over the place. I have today a special guest with me. Remzi happens to be an immigration attorney here in the United States, but he has done it himself. It's Turkey, correct?
Yes, I'm original from Turkey. Yes.
Awesome. So he's walked the journey that you guys are trying to walk, and he's in a special position as an immigration attorney. He can give you all kinds of information and helpful advice. And we are taking questions live on the show, 100% for free help today. So if you want to hire Remzi, of course you can. We'll get into that in a little bit, but you can pick his brain today for free on the show. So if you already have a question that you know, like we've got one here, how should you approach an interview that you have a relationship with a panel member? That's a great question. We're going to come back to that. I'm going to answer that question first because today, as in every day, we're going to do first in, first out as far as the questions go. But Remzi, could you just do us a favor and introduce yourself to the audience? Maybe like a 3-minute overview of how you got into what you do and how you can help people.
Okay, sure. Yeah. First of all, thanks for hosting me, Ira. This is a great opportunity. We met through a networking event, and you were so generous enough to offer me this and say many people can maybe benefit from this. So I would be very happy to come here and talk to your followers today. I was born in Turkey in the last century, and I came here when I was only 23 years of age to have my master's degree in law. I went to law school in Turkey. I went to law school here. And then once I've done with the law school, I took the bar exam in New York City and I passed it. And then I decided to stay here. Dealing with immigration didn't come easily because my master's degree was in maritime law, and I tried different law firms. And then suddenly I realized that a lot of people around me I needed immigration advice, and there was no immigration lawyers at the time, and only a few speaking the language. So a friend of mine told me, why don't you become an immigration lawyer? So that pops up something in my mind. So I decided to get in the field. I worked at a very small boutique law firm for about 5 years. And then I opened up my own practice in 2009. And I've been doing immigration for about 20 years now. What we do is corporate immigration and family immigration, individual immigration. So we have corporate clients, we have individual clients. Sometimes people like to come here by sponsored family members. Sometimes companies would like to sponsor foreign talent, and we do all of their paperwork, visa applications, etc. We are located in Manhattan, in New York City, but because immigration law is federal law, we can assist clients from all over the states and also from foreign countries. So that's basically what we do.
That's a lot. That's a lot. Okay. First of all, you don't look like you're old enough to be doing it for 20 years. You are aging very well.
Thank you. Thank you. The reason, Ira, that funny that you mentioned that, because about 10 years ago, I didn't have a beard. And because of the physiognomy that I have, I look very young. So a client talked to me on the phone about 3 months. And then he came to my office in New York City to visit me. And the minute I entered the conference room, he was shocked. He told me, was I talking to you all the time, or do you have a senior partner? And
are you somebody's assistant, or are you the
exactly,
guy?
exactly.
Right, I get it.
So this and similar comments made me realize that I have to look older. So that's the beard, Ira. About 10 years ago.
That's why I do it too. It's not to hide the ugliness behind the beard. It's because I want to look older. Yeah,
certainly. Yeah.
Well, Remzi, you have an amazing amount of information on your website. I'm actually going to pull that up. I have it up. I need to share my screen. I just want to show people where they can go to get more information from you. And I want to encourage people too. If you're watching the show, I just tagged Remzi in a comment here. And I said, if you have questions if you're on LinkedIn, you can actually click on that. It's a hyperlink. And go over and follow Remzi or reach out to him. Let him know you saw him on the show, right? But let's reward Remzi with some, for helping us with this, donating his time. Let's reward him by helping him build his following today. That would be cool. All right, hang on just a second. I'm really bad at talking and sharing. I don't know why. I should be better at this by now. I've been doing this for so long.
You're not alone. You're not alone.
Yeah, it's amazing. It looks easy when other people do it, but I make it look complicated. Anyways, this is the website. It's called kulenlaw.com. I'm actually going to share this now too in the comments. I'm just putting your name with it too. I just want to make sure you get something out of this, my friend. I'm really happy that you're here. So I've got this again on LinkedIn, guys. Visit Remzi's website here. It's called kulenlaw.com. And there's a lot of information. A lot of you guys are interested here, right? E1 visas, investor visas, and I'm sure you can explain what all these are for those of you looking for a green card. But one of the things I definitely want to point out to anybody who missed it, you work with both individuals and corporations.
That's right.
If you're one of the many business owners who are watching this show today, and you are interested in maybe this is something, and you and I talked about something we'll get to in a second. But if you're interested in hiring, not outsourced talent, that's not even the right way to say it, but talent from another country, because
we said foreign talent.
Foreign talent, because the local labor pool isn't supporting or doesn't have enough candidates, slim pickings, if you will, and you need help if you're a director of HR or whatever, and you're like, man, we really need to bring some people in, but we don't have a corporate lawyer to help us with that. Remzi's law firm could do that. Kulen Law can do that for you.
We have a lot of corporate clients where we either work with HR manager, or sometimes it's not big enough to have an HR department, and then we directly work with the owners in trying to bring in foreign talent. What we don't do is we cannot pick and choose who they're going to work with. So they have to come up with the candidate. Sometimes candidate finds the company, sometimes company finds the candidate, but
Yeah.
the company would like to be sponsoring the candidate for the position. So once you find a willing company and a candidate to come to the United States, then the process gets easier, and it's then in the hands of the lawyers or the law firm.
Yeah. So let me clarify to everybody watching, he's not a recruiter.
Yes,
Right? They don't
that's
offer
right.
recruiting services. So if
No,
you're looking to get sponsored, but you don't have a company interested in hiring you, that's not the time to get Remzi involved. You want to make that connection first, right? Find mutual interest
yes,
and then get Remzi involved. But I'm connected directly on LinkedIn to about 5,000 recruiters. Okay.
right.
So I'm sure a few recruiters who are either watching or will watch this show later. And if you're a recruiter watching this, by all means, reach out to Remzi. You can set up a relationship ahead of time. And then when you come into a situation like this, where you're trying to place a foreign candidate with one of your local clients, then you have the legal part, a way to facilitate that without having to add more time. But speaking of time, you said something to me when we spoke that just literally made my mind. We've all seen those gifs where the mind explodes, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
But what I'm talking about specifically is the length of time that it takes to get this done. Can you cover that real quick? Like how
sure,
long? So
absolutely.
somebody has an employer that wants to bring them in.
Right.
What is the time frame for a visa?
It really depends on what kind of process we're talking about, because United States is an immigrant country. So there are all these different types of visas designed for different needs. Uh, I wouldn't be exaggerating if I told you that there are visas from A to Z, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. It's an alphabet soup, the immigration world. But when it comes down to a specific person and a specific company, there usually are a few options available, at least a few options available. So among those options, we actually try to find the best solution
Yeah.
for the company and for the employee. So if I have to give some examples, for example, H-1B is the most commonly used
Yeah, I put that in the
temporary.
question on
I
YouTube.
saw that. Yeah. So it's the most commonly used professional visa in the immigration space. So H-1B visa is subject to quota, and the quota opens up with registrations on March 1st. So you go to the website, you register the company and the person, and lawyers do that. Individuals or companies shouldn't do it because there's a lot of technicalities and there may be mistakes, but
You
we
wanna make sure it's
register the
done
company.
correctly, you hire a lawyer.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. So we register the company on March 1st. They select the quota amount, they select the quota cases on April 1st,
okay.
because there's only 85,000 visas available per fiscal year, but there are more than 200, sometimes 300,000 applicants for those 80,000, 85,000 available spots. So
Okay.
it's always a quota, always a selection. And once they select those individual numbers, they let people know that you can now file the application. So then you have 2 months to file the application, actual application, so
So you
that
have to
USS
the end of
can
June.
review it, yeah, and then get back to you. Now, this whole process can take anywhere between 8 to 10 months, or if you are using what is called a premium processing service, so you pay an additional fee to the government and they adjudicate the case in 15 days rather than in 4 to 8 months. So if you did that, then it could be decided within 15 days. Then it's a matter of few months to get the approval, or 8 to 10 months in the regular process. So as you can see, even H-1B is sometimes a few months to 10-month process starting on March 1st
Yeah, it depends on
every
where you
year.
are. Because, like, if we were starting today, March 1st isn't for 6 more months, right? So
Exactly.
then you got 6 months plus the 6 to 8 months, so you're looking at a year to 14
Yeah,
months. To me, that's okay,
that's
so
insane.
yeah, I mean, and you said a few things there. Okay, so job seekers, if you're not familiar with this expression ATS, the applicant tracking software that's being used by employers, I was just talking to another lady earlier this week. She goes, I've applied to over 100 jobs and I'm not getting any interviews. I feel like I'm way qualified for this. And I said, well, let me ask you a question. Are you using the same resume for every application, or are you adjusting it for the keywords so that you have a higher keyword match? And she goes, no, I hired a resume writer and I'm just using that one. And I said, well, there's your problem right there. It's not that you're not qualified. It's you're not matching high enough. There's enough people doing the keyword matching that if you're not doing it, you're not going to make the interview. You're less likely, at least far less likely, to make the interview round. And that frustrates so many people. But it's kind of what you just said with this quota thing, because you said there's 85,000 open slots and you have 2 to 300,000 people usually who are applying. So if you make a mistake, if you didn't make that mistake, your odds would have been much better. But because you made that mistake, you're almost automatically out, right? I mean,
Yeah,
that's that's a huge problem for folks who are trying to do this without legal representation, and that's one of the ways to justify really paying that extra expense to make sure that you get it. Because let's say this, you wait from now to March, you fill it out by yourself incorrectly, and now you got to wait again a whole nother. So now you just added a whole nother year to the
that's a
process.
problem.
Yeah,
And it
right,
happens.
and maybe that employer now is like, "Forget you, I'm not waiting 2 years to hire you, I'm gonna hire somebody else."
Yeah,
So
exactly. So that's
you can lose the
H-1B.
job.
There's also the green card option, which is a longer process but a permanent solution. So if
Let me pull that up, hang on a second. So,
sure.
the visas are here under
So
worker,
work
and then
visa is, yeah, the worker was H1. You can go to H1B from the worker. That's is that
that's right
too.
here. So this is the
Yeah.
one we were talking about, was this one, right?
Yes.
This
Yeah.
is the most common worker
Temporary work
visa
visa.
that somebody would apply
Yes.
for, but now we're
Yes.
talking about green card, and green card, can you explain the difference between the visa and the green card?
Sure. So the visa is for a temporary period. For example, the H-1B visa is only for 3 years. It can be renewed for another 3 years. If you're going to use this in multiple employers, then you have 6 years in total. So that's the H-1B visa. When you talk about
Say that one
green,
more time. 6 years in total?
6 years in total.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you're going to talk about the green card, which is employment-based green card application,
Yeah,
that is
you
the
said this, it's EB. So acronym, if you guys hear the acronym EB green card, that's what they're talking about. Employment
yes,
green.
exactly. So EBs and then they have categories: EB1, EB2, EB3. All of these different categories, depending on your qualifications, depending on what the job requires, depending whether the job requires an offer of employment or not. These are the employment-based green cards. So if we are talking about an employment offer, that would be an employment-based green card application filed through PERM. PERM is the name of the labor certification program established by the Department of Labor. So in plain English, it means that you first have to certify as a company that there is no willing or able US citizen or green card holders who are going to do this position that you're offering in the United States. Only then you can offer this position to a foreigner. So that's what it basically means.
So
Uh,
this is why companies really do need to talk to you or a lawyer at least before they get started, because it's not as straightforward as, oh, I'll just hire whoever the best candidate is. You have to be eligible to offer the job to a foreigner.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. So the company must be financially viable. It must have at least a few, sometimes one or two employees, maybe a proper workspace. So new companies generally cannot sponsor employees because they don't have the financial means. But 1 year old, 2 year old companies can usually do it. We just have to see the tax return, whether the company can really sponsor this person and provide the documentation that is needed throughout the process.
And
Now, this,
sponsorship costs, could you give the employers out there? Because obviously, when you're looking at a labor pool that's depleted, right, and there's just
right,
not enough local talent, so they
right.
are looking at this option. I'm assuming that they're thinking they're going to be able to bring people in for a lower hourly wage to help to even out the scale. But how much is a sponsorship the financial responsibility for an employer?
Yes, Ira, it really depends on whether you're working on an hourly basis as a law firm or you're giving flat rates, the filing fees, whether you're coming by yourself or by your spouse and children. So it really depends. But generally speaking, everything is included. All of three stages, family, etc. It should be between $15,000 and $25,000 in total, and this is paid in stages. So it's the first stage, it's the second stage, it's the third stage. If you cannot move to the second stage, you stay at the first and you don't pay the whole amount. So it really depends.
Yeah, and you told me this before, just for the employers, again, just for your edification. The way that works, the first phase is about 50%, and then the final two
Yeah,
phases they're 25% each. So you're putting
exactly.
about half of that down up front, and then if for some reason it doesn't get approved, you don't have to worry about the rest.
Exactly.
And then there
Exactly.
are
And
other fees too, right? So we had
yeah,
talked about this. You're talking about the legal fees from the law firm's invoices, but
right.
not the filing fees, and you're gonna have another
Well,
few $1,000s.
if we're talking about one person only or two people, husband and wife, 15, 20 grand covers the filing fees too.
Oh,
If
okay.
you add more family members, then it may increase a little bit
If they have
because
8 kids, like my wife and
that, yeah.
I. We're
Yeah,
moving a
that may
whole
change things.
village, Remzi.
I think the most children I did with the family was 8 kids.
There you
It's
go.
not.
Yeah,
Yeah, I did a case like that, and it was really hard to keep track though.
yeah. Well,
So, and then this green card process takes about 2.5 to 3 years, and it's a very long process. Usually, people prefer doing this if they're already in the United States on a work visa, on a student visa, something like that in status. So while spending time in the US, you also wait out your green card to be issued. So it makes a lot of sense. But sometimes people are not here, and companies would like to bring in these people not immediately, but in 2 or 3 years of time. It requires a lot of planning ahead.
yeah.
So it can be done both ways. If you are already in the US, it could be a change of status. If you are in your own country, then it could be completed and you can get the green card through the US consulate in your own country.
Let's talk about that for a second. So somebody's here on a student visa or something different than HB1 or a green card, and maybe they're going to school and they graduate and they're like, "Hey, I really like it here. I just got my bachelor's degree from
Yeah.
wherever." Let's say University of Michigan, and they get a job offer, or somebody wants to hire them in Detroit. And what's that process look like? Do they have to start from scratch? And
So let's say you're a student, and well, first of all, let me tell you the way it works mostly is if you're here on an undergrad degree or a graduate degree or a long-time certificate program, the government gives you a work authorization, what is called OPT, without the need of a sponsorship. So this is a government gift to you if you went to school here. It's usually for 1 year, but if you are one of the STEM fields, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics,
yeah,
then it can be extended for another 2 years.
okay,
So it's a huge, huge opportunity for people who don't have sponsorship, but who would like to apply for a job at the companies and gain some US experience.
sure,
So this is big, this is huge. And usually what happens is if they like you while you're working on your OPT, they would like to sponsor you for a green card. This usually works very well with STEM OPT fields. So if you are a graduate of a science, technology, engineering, mathematics bachelor degree or a master degree, you can get 3 years of work authorization without the need of any sponsorship. So during those 3 years, you can complete the green card application through the company, and without any gaps, you can continue working for the company. That's usually how it happens. But sometimes people come here on a student visa, they don't have work authorization, but in networking events, in different environments, they meet with employers who would like to sponsor them and would like to have them work for their company once they get the green card. So in those instances, those people can stay here on a tourist visa or any other type of visa other than tourist, because tourists will not allow you to stay here that long, right?
right,
So you have to have another status. So you can stay here on that status and wait out for your green card application to be concluded. Once it's concluded, since you have maintained your status, you're going to be switched automatically to green card status. And this is something we do all the time also. So there is no violation. They don't work during their studies unless they have work authorization, just like I described to you. And they maintain their status. They go to their school. They don't violate their status. Then it's completely fine.
Okay, I have a technical question for you. You're a lawyer, so I'm going to try and stump you. I hire people, but I don't hire them as an individual. I do 1099.
Yes.
I have a lot of 1099 work. So if a person is over here on anything that isn't, they're not supposed to work over here, right? Are they allowed to do 1099 work?
Okay, that's a very good question. Now, 1099, for those of you who don't know, are issued to independent contractors or freelancers by companies. So that means you don't have regular work for this person that you have to pay salary for. You don't have regular hours, you don't have regular work. But as projects come up or on a case-by-case basis, this person completes a project for you and you pay the money. It could be an hourly basis, it could be on a project basis, it could be a short term, it could be a long term, but it's not an employee, it's an independent contractor.
Right, you're hiring, in effect, you're hiring a company. You're not hiring
exactly.
Yeah.
Sometimes individuals get 1099 too, Ira. So an individual working as a freelancer can get a 1099 too. It doesn't have to be a company all the time. So those types of scenarios don't go under H-1B or green card application procedure because there is no employer-employee relationship.
Right. That's what I'm wondering, if that's a feasible workaround.
And the employee, yeah. So you can't just say, I'm going to have a 1099 relationship, independent contractor relationship with this person. You can't do that. In the H-1B context, you can hire people on a part-time or a full-time W-2 worker, payroll worker process. In the green card application, the job must be full-time. You cannot hire a part-time person.
Right. So here's the reason why I asked that question, because if somebody is working on getting their green card or they're working on their degree over here, but they don't have authorization to work yet, that's a way that they could sustain themselves. It's a sustainability question for the individual, not for the company. Because companies, trust me, already know that they can do 1099. I mean, most of my workforce is 1099. So, but here I cannot actually pay them by the hour on 1099. They don't have, like you said, there's no structured. I'm not paying them, to sit at a desk, or I can't even provide the desk, frankly, right? Like that's their deal. They're designing a graphic, or they're writing a blog, or they're building backlinks, or whatever it is they're doing for my company, and I'm paying them it's like piecemeal work, right? I'm paying them to do piecemeal stuff, as opposed to, here, come work for me for 40 hours, and there's no benefits, right? It's just, this is the agreed upon price, and here's the deadline, right?
That's 1099. And 1099 doesn't really give you any many visa options. I mean, the only option I can think of about the 1099 is if you were to set up a company and provide services where you get 1099s, and that business is a very active business. You just don't work for a couple of vendors or clients. Maybe you work for a lot of clients, and then you generate enough income that you actually can see that this company is very active. Maybe there's a way to go to E2 investor visa from it. So the E2 is a very different concept, and not everybody is familiar with it, because E2 cannot be obtained by every country. E2, for E2, you have to have a trade agreement with your own country and the United States. So if United States is a free country with, let's say, Nigeria, then Nigerian nationals can get E2 visas, right? So, and the Department of State has a website where all of these countries are listed. whether they're E2 countries or not. So basically, the E2 is a beautiful concept. It allows you to establish or purchase a company in the United States, put some money in it, and have it work. Hire employees, do services, or sell stuff, or bring stuff from overseas, whatever it is. For all industries, it's doable. So if you are the owner of your own business, then you can get an E2 visa, and you can also get E2s for your managers from the same nationality. So for yourself and for the managers from the same nationality. Now that company can issue 1099s or can be paid by 1099s from their clients. So 1099 can come in during that concept, maybe that scenario.
Yeah, I like that. There's a couple solutions for you guys to maybe utilize 1099 while you're going through the process, or to use it like you said with the E2 visa, which I would have never come up with that. That's why you are on the show.
Thank you. Yes.
uh, all right, I'm going to do this. So we're going to take a little bit of a pause on this topic, and we were asked a question. It's very interesting. I'm actually thinking I've never been asked this question on the show before. So thank you, Eric, for asking an original question. I get a lot of the same questions repeatedly on this because I've been doing it for a while now. But how would you approach an interview that you have a relationship with a panel member? Now, that can be tricky, but if you're the employee or the prospect interviewing for the job, it's actually that's really not your concern, other than maybe you just need to make sure that you announce it so they're aware, because maybe not everybody in the interview process would be aware that there is that conflict of interest. But as the employer, obviously that could be a big deal. So I'm going to say that if you're asking from the employee side, which most people watching the show would be interested in that aspect, it's really a non-issue for you, other than just your obligation would be to make sure they're aware of it, right? Just a simple, hey, just to let everybody know, I'm in a relationship with, if it's my wife, Alicia Bowman, who happens to work here, as you guys know, she's my wife, right? And then that fulfills your responsibility. The rest is on them. Their HR department from that company is then going to have to figure out how to handle that. They probably would recuse her from the interview process. That's the most logical thing that I think would happen. But, honestly, if you're an employer with that question, you should get with your HR department. And if they have a question, they should probably ask an attorney, right? If they really want to have that person be a part, because you don't want to open yourself up for lawsuits. That's the bottom line. You don't want another candidate to sue you for prejudice or discrimination of any type. So there you go. I think I answered that question. The next question that I have is from Jeffrey. Jeffrey asks, what do you need to do to be appealing to corporates abroad? Okay. So what you're really asking is, how can I garner the attention of an employer in the United States or some other place outside the country that I reside in? One of the best strategies that I've ever heard of, and I talked with oh my goodness, I just lost her name. Julia Robbie. Sorry. Julia Robbie's strategy is this. If you can try to get a job with a multinational company, right? You want to work in the United States or Canada or Mexico or London or wherever you want to go, Sydney, Australia. If you can find a corporation that has an office where you are locally and in the country that you want to move to, that is the best way to get their attention, because you can work for them, show them your work ethic, and build an HR file that they can verify this is a top-notch employee. They're really good at what they do, and they're familiar with our company and our culture and all those things. Now, when we transfer you over to the new place, when we work on the sponsorship and going through the $30,000 and the headaches and the year to 18 months process that it's going to take, we're not so worried about job performance. Now, the main issue that we're going to have realistically is about culture. Will they fit in with the new culture, not only of the United States, but of the local office or, wherever the location that you're going to be working at, it's going to be different. One of the biggest things that I see with people that switch and go from one place to the other is they get homesick or they don't fit in. And that's a big problem, right? Because as Remzi just talked about, that's a lot of money, right? You've just went through a lot of hurdles financially and otherwise to get a person from point A to point B. And if they, can't cut it because they've 3 months and they didn't realize Canada was cold. Remzi, did you know it snows in Canada?
I know. Yeah.
Right? It's amazing people want to go from like 52 Celsius in the summer to where it's like 27 Celsius max in the summer. You know what I mean?
It's funny that you mention it because most of the time when investors come to me and ask me, you've been in the States for more than 20 years, you tell us where to invest and we'll do it. And I said, well, where do you live right now? What's the temperature? Do you like the temperature there, or do you like cold weather? Do you like hot weather?
Yeah.
Are you ready, for example, if you're going to live in Indianapolis, and are you ready that everything is going to be frozen for 3 months and you're going to be under the tunnels during the winter? So I ask those questions all the time because most of the time, what you want to do can be done anywhere in the U.S. It just depends. It is really important where you want to live and your family wants to live, because sometimes people make decisions based on business only without ever thinking
Right.
about their family. So that's also a big concern. I always advise my clients to come here as a tourist, take a look, not as a tourist, this time as a resident, maybe with those eyes, with those views,
Yeah.
and see where is more suitable for them.
Remzi,
Because there's a lot of
I wrote
factors.
an article about that, and I said, look, you need to not stay in a hotel. You need to not stay, like you're a tourist. You need to try to replicate, okay, figure out how much would I be making? Where in the town? Because if you're going to live in New York City or somewhere around New York City and you're making, $45,000 a year, $55,000 a year, guess where you're not living? You sure as heck aren't living in Manhattan
Yeah,
in the lap of luxury. So you need to figure out how far away is that commute going to be? Is it going to be an hour and a half, 2 hours? How are you going to get there? What about parking? You need to figure out the commute, because I lived in a place that was 55 miles away from where the office was. Took me 2.5 hours to get there one way because of all the
wow,
traffic. And I did that for 2.5 years, and really it burned me out. It was too
yeah,
much, you know,
yeah,
but when you're going to a foreign country, there's so much more than just the commute, right? So I love what you said. I wrote it in an article. It's brilliant advice. If you've never been to the place, like I know someone's not serious when they say, I want to move to Canada. I want to help me get a sponsorship to Canada. Really? Canada's pretty darn big geographically. It's bigger than India geographically. There's more geographical territory, right? It's a large place. Are you talking about East Coast or West Coast? Because there's a huge difference between Toronto and Vancouver. Now, if you've never been there, you don't know. And there's this whole big plethora of space in the middle that you can move to. But you got to, like you said, you got to understand what you're looking for, not just climate wise, but also what are you looking for, the temperament of the town? Are you looking for the nightlife party stuff? Are you looking for more family friendly? Are you looking for something that's rural, where meaning you're going to have like cows and sheep and horses and stuff like that? Or are you looking for, something that's really urban, a major thoroughfare, which I would think for the most part, getting a sponsorship would be easier the further away from you get from the major towns, because again, it's about labor pools. They're going to sponsor not because you're the best person they've ever read, the resume they've ever read, not CV. That's the other part of this, right? Make sure you're using the appropriate applicant documents when you're applying to these jobs. If you're in India and you're using CVs, which you are, but you're applying for a job in Toronto, Canada, where they use resumes, and you use a CV, you will not get an interview. And it has nothing to do with them being racially biased or, they're against people in India. That's not true at all, right? It's just you didn't show that you're educating yourself enough to get this job. See, it's the whole process, not just the visa sponsorship, not just the green card application, the whole process from start to finish, from the time how you identify who might be interested, going through the application, getting the sponsorship, and then settling into the new market. All of that, you've got to have a smart strategy, a well thought out strategy. So when someone says, "Hey, I want to relocate to Denver, Colorado," I take that person a lot more seriously than somebody says, "I want to move to the United States," because Denver, Colorado is a specific place. The United States, for lack of, it's an ideal, right? It's a dream. It's like, I have this fantasy that I'm going to move to Hollywood and become an actor. Really? Based on what? Based on emotion? No, you got to have a real dream with a real plan. One of the things that I talk about, Remzi, all the time, people should do is do informational interviews. You would be a great person to talk to for just about anybody that's in another country that's looking to be a lawyer in the United States, because you've done it. You've
Yeah.
migrated. You've been successful at not only working for another firm, but started your own firm. You've been, in your own practice for over 10 years, right? So you've got that experience. Plus,
I'm living the American dream. Yes.
plus that's what you do to help people anyways, right? So
I
it's
do.
also your
Yes.
profession. I mean, to
That's very
me,
fulfilling.
you were like the perfect guest for this, because the whole gamut. You came from Turkey. You first of all, you graduated with what was it, as a master's degree at 24? Is that what you said? That's impressive all by
No,
itself.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Because the
Yeah,
law school
I'm not
is,
trying to age you, but dang it, I
because
didn't get
law,
my bachelor's degree till I was
I
30.
think,
I think I was
no,
38.
I think the legal system helps me because you can go to law school right after high school in Turkey, in many parts of the world. But in the United States, for those of you who don't know, you can go to law school after you finish a college. So that helped us a lot.
Yeah.
We became lawyers at a very young age. I wanna
Well,
I wanna add
that's some of the
something to
advantages of being in other countries. Like,
exactly.
when you're looking for the fastest route to do things, that's one of
Yeah,
the things that I love people explore. And that would be a reason for somebody in the United States to go the other direction and go, "Hey, I'd like to go get a school visa in Turkey so that I can do both simultaneously."
yeah. Ira, can I add something to Geoffrey's question just a minute
Yeah.
ago?
Yeah,
He
yeah, yeah.
said, "What do you need to be appealing to the corporates abroad?" I found out that the best way to do it is to come to the United States as a student
Yeah.
and have some sort of a degree, certificate program, bachelor degree, or a master degree. Then they know that you got the education in the United States and you have work authorization after, just like I told you before, that gives you a huge opportunity to attract those kinds of positions, because once you're far away and once you're not educated in the United States, I don't think anybody's going to gamble and offer you a position unless they know you by some other means, just like Ira told us a few minutes ago, that it could be a foreign branch office of a company where also a US branch or headquarter exists. But other than that, you have to come here, show your face, get some kind of an education, get good grades, and then get a work authorization so that you can be in the eyes or in the perimeters of that kind of position.
100%. Now here's something that I wrote in this article. So the article is called "How to Land a Job in a Foreign Country." Okay. One of the main things that Ramsey's talking about here, which again I completely agree about it. I wrote an article with this in it. You want to network as much as you can in person. But in lieu of that, if you can't, now with Zoom and with the social media platforms, say, for example, my hypothetical again, you want to move to Denver, Colorado for whatever reason. And I don't know why I picked Denver, because actually I'm a Raiders fan and we hate Denver. So, anyways, there you go. But there are some people who like sports who get that. Go Raiders. Anyways, if you can't get to Denver, what everybody can do is go find networking groups from Denver. So you can make acquaintances with people who work for that company or work for companies that do what you're trying to do in Denver, right? You can network with people in Denver, and then you could try to get recommendations and referrals from folks, or at least introductions from folks as you make friends. Here's the number one problem, though. I just want to address this. Most of you go for the throat too soon, right? You go from 0 to, hey, can you hire me? Or, hey, can you refer me to your boss? You don't build the relationship bridge first. Like the first second I met Remzi, I didn't go, hey, would you like to come on my show? You know what I mean? Like that
I
wouldn't
would
have
have
been.
said I would have said yes anyway, but yeah,
Well, there you
continue.
go. Right. But that's the idea, that you want to build this relationship first, get to
Yes.
know them, get them to know you, get them to like you, and then you start to ask. And if you're trying to figure out, well, when's it appropriate? It depends on what you're asking for, right? If you're asking somebody to sponsor you, now you know that's like $20,000 ish commitment. That's a lot of money, and you're talking about a year or so process. So if I've never met you before and you ask me that, the answer you should expect the answer to be no. If you don't expect the answer to no, is you really need to work on that sense of entitlement that you have, because it's off. Okay, it's a lot to ask somebody to go through a year plus process and spend 20 plus $1,000 on somebody they've never met and don't really know. Right now, you have to think about it from a marketing perspective or a business perspective. If I have a labor pool that's saturated, meaning there's a lot of local labor available to me, that I can hire somebody without a $20,000 investment, without putting a year of time or more into it, without having to jump through a lot of hoops. I can bring them in, and if it doesn't work out, I'll just bring in the next person, right? It's not like that with the sponsorship. You're committed to that, right? Once you go through that process, you've in a sense, you've married that person, right?
Yeah.
Professionally. So I'm just telling you guys, as people who want to get sponsored, don't don't just jump to the, "Hey, would you like to marry me?" question, right? Like, you gotta date them first. So I love the question that Jeffrey asks, how do you get their attention? How do you become appealing to them? I like that, because that lets me know that Jeffrey's on the right wavelength here. So the suggestion is, from both Remzi and I, one of the things for sure is to try to visit the place that you are looking to work and meet with people in a social or networking type environment, where it cannot be, hey, will you sponsor me? Right? That puts undue pressure on you and undue pressure on them. But if you can come together for a period of time, love Ramsey's suggestion about education, right? Because that's going to take some time to finish that degree or finish that certification. So it gives you time to form these relationships over time. And then, shoot, they might say, dude, I would love to hire you. I wonder what's involved in that. And then you can point them to Remzi and go, I'm not a lawyer, but I know one. I know Remzi at Kulen Law, and he can help us if you really want to go through this and sponsor me. This is a way that it can get done. Great question. All right. Afak from Pakistan says, I've done my mechanical engineering 2 years ago. So he's got his degree. And is it possible to get sponsorship worker visa? The simple answer to that is yes, right?
Yes.
The challenge is,
Sponsors.
yeah, you got to find somebody, like we were just talking about.
Yeah.
You can't just come. You got to either get your green card or your H-1B visa, right? Or another visa, right? There's several types. That's the one I'm most familiar with, but right, you can't just come. So again, how do you do it? Well, what I would suggest, I'll put this link oops. I'll put this link to this article. I knew we were going to be talking about this one today, so I had it ready to go. But it's called "How to Land a Job in a Foreign Country." The foremost expert from a recruiter and HR standpoint that I know on this topic is Juliana Robbie. I've had her on my show several times. I've interviewed her several times, and I wrote this blog as a supposition of our conversations, to give people some real world practical tips on what you can do to put yourself in a position to land a job in a foreign country, which is where you're at, Afek. If you've got the degree and certification, which you should be doing now, right now, is working in your field. Okay. So you don't just have the degree or the certificates, you also now have real world experience. Because if you completed your degree 2 years ago, I would expect that you have at least a year, hopefully 2, of real world experience in the engineering field, because that matters too, right? Sometimes they're writing these job descriptions or these job specs out, and they're saying, we want a mid-level engineer with not only a master's in engineering, right? Let's say you're a civil engineer. Oh, I'm sorry, you said mechanical. Okay. So we want a mid-level engineer with not only a master's in mechanical engineering, but also with at least 5 years of real world experience. Okay. So if you're working on that as you're working on this other stuff, that'll help you fulfill that requirement. And now, again, you got to meet people. No matter what else you do in a job search, I don't care if you're here in the United States and you want to work in the United States. I don't care if you're outside the United States and you want to work in the United States. I don't care if you're in the United States and you want to work somewhere else, right? I want to go to Turkey so I can too work on my law degree. Remzi's gonna help me get that. No, I'm not that smart. Anyways, but if that was the case, right, I still would need to meet people. I need to make relationships. You got to get, it's a team sport. No matter how you go about this process, it's a team sport. You're going to have multiple people on the team because you're going to have the employer, probably going to have a recruiter involved. We haven't really talked about recruiters and their role in all this, but the recruiters really are the ones who are going to get you in front of the right people most of the time. Okay. So a lot of jobs in the United States, at least the highly sought after jobs, they don't even advertise. You have to know somebody who even knows that position's available. And anyways, you can hire headhunters too, by the way, which is a recruiter who works for you instead of the company. But usually the recruiter works for the company. They get paid by the company, not by the person who's looking for the job. But anyways, there's that component, which we haven't talked about. But you meet these folks, you make a relationship with these folks, and then they help you to cross or bridge the divide between where you are and where you want to be. So I'm going to post that. We are starting to get low on time. We're down. We got 10 more minutes here. So let me say this. Well, I am putting up the link to the article in the comments. What I'm doing in just a second. If you have a question for myself or for Remzi about how to get a sponsorship, how to get your green card, how to do anything like that, or just a job search question in general, feel free to ask that question in the comment now, and we will address it. Again, we're getting down to the end of the show here. We got about 8 more minutes left. So ask your questions now if you've got one. And I'm going to put this right now. How to land a job. Sorry, I wish I could talk and type something different at the same time.
Okay. And one other thing while you're typing, Ira,
yeah, go ahead.
It would be nice to know that the U.S. immigration system also allows what is called a self-sponsorship mechanism. So
say that one more time. What is it?
Self-sponsorship mechanism. So you can actually file for a green card for yourself if you are very successful at what you do. So there is what we call an EB1 category for extraordinary ability people. So if you really excelled in what you do and you are one of the most well-known persons in your field, either nationally or internationally, this could be a way to go. We do a lot of artists like this.
Yeah.
Athletes, entertainers, but anybody can qualify for this, even business people. So that's called EB1.
What kind of cost are we looking at if we're doing it ourselves? Same.
This is definitely more expensive, but since it doesn't have the first stage, which is the labor certification, where you try to prove to the government that there is a green card holder, there is a U.S. citizen person who can do this job, because there is no job, right? This is self-sponsorship mechanism. So yeah, it's only 2 stages instead of 3, but it costs about the same money because there's no first stage.
Gotcha.
So it's about the same money.
So is that 50-50 at that point then?
15-20, you could say, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So basically, this is EB1. And then there's also EB2, which is national interest waiver. Now, this is a technical term, national interest waiver. This means if we waive the job offer requirement for this person, it is in the national interest of the United States. This is a beautiful area as well.
So this is the one you were just talking about, the E1.
No, go to green card.
Yeah.
employment
Oh,
based,
self-sponsored.
self-sponsorship. Yes.
Okay. That's why I like
So
doing this while you guys are on the show, so I make sure I'm showing them the right stuff.
yeah,
This is cool. I didn't see this before.
yeah,
Oh,
it
here we go.
is
And you got the EB1 and EB2. So this is what I'm talking
exactly.
about. You guys can go through his website and learn a lot about this, because I'm going to tell you that any process gets easier when you are informed, when you
Yes.
know the inner workings and how it works.
So the national interest waiver, I want to just talk a little bit about,
Yeah.
because I know we're running out of time.
So that's this one here. Oh,
This
I'm not
is
sharing. Yeah.
so this is mostly for those people who contributed to a field which is very important for the national interests of any country. For example, I'll give you an example. I had a professor, university professor, who found something that um, let the railroad not uh, to let the railroad stand stable during an earthquake, so less trains were derailing. So he
Okay.
found a system, a
That's a
mechanism,
good thing.
a
Yeah.
technology. So and then this technology was actually bought by a state in the United States. I don't remember which one. And we filed a green card application for him based on self-sponsorship. He didn't have any employment offers, but because the U.S. government thought that this is in the self-interest of United States to have this academician work in the United States, they
Yeah.
improved the case. So it's mostly for academics, but it also spans very different positions, titles, industries. So there is also this option of self-sponsorship mechanism that I wanted to
Is it
talk
is
about.
is it the same thing where you have to wait to March to do it, or does it start
No,
at a different time?
this luckily has no quota.
Okay.
You can you just have to you just have to understand whether you're eligible for it, because most people think they are, but most people are not eligible for
Yeah.
this
Yeah,
category.
this is
So
a special, you gotta be special.
you have to be special, yes, but you don't.
I'm special in the fact that I'm not special.
But you don't have to be famous. That's the good thing about it.
Yeah.
Even for EB1, yeah, I mean, yeah, press is needed, etc. But for EB2, you don't even have to be famous. You just have to have done something that contributed to your field,
A
which is in the national
spectacular and a
interest.
spectacular event that makes you part of your industry's history.
Or maybe not spectacular event, but consistent events. For example, writing articles all the time about something,
Okay.
establishing something in a country that didn't know that before. So those kinds of things takes you to EB1 or EB2 space, and that's great, because then you don't need you don't need a company sponsor to sponsor you for this position.
I learned so much from our conversation last time, right, off air. I think I've learned just as much today. Ramsey, you really are very fun to listen to and informative to listen to on this topic. We didn't get a ton of questions. I think most people are like me and they're soaking this knowledge in. I am sure that I'm going to get a tidal wave of inquiries after this is over.
Yeah, no problem.
But I want to make sure, if people are late to the party and they didn't see the introduction, I just want them to know where they can find you. So I'm going to share your website one more time. This website that I've been using as a reference while Ramsey's been talking, it's called kulenlaw.com. So it's KULENLAW.com. I will go ahead and copy it and paste it one more time. And if you guys don't know Rims, I should have had this set up. I apologize, I didn't. But let's just do it real quick. If you guys haven't, what am I looking for? We'll get Ramsey up here. Should have done this already. Sorry, guys. But if you're looking for Remzi and you want to ask him a question directly or reach out and connect with him, and I would appreciate you guys doing that. Let's support him and thank him, showing him our appreciation for him being on the show. Let's send him connection requests and just let him know, hey, I saw you on Ira's show. Ask Ira, I'd love to connect. That will help him in building up his visibility for the services that he's providing. He is certainly someone I think most people on LinkedIn would like to be connected to, because he's a treasure trove of knowledge on something a lot of people are curious about. There's 200, I'm sorry, let's say there's 300 million people watching usually these shows from outside. How am I trying to say this? A good 30% of people watching these types of shows are watching from outside the United States. So there's a large part of folks that could benefit or want to change that, right? That's why they're watching. So
Yeah.
I just think that for those of you watching, if you're not familiar with Remzi, follow him on LinkedIn. And if you are interested in a good resource to learn more about this, because like I said, what anything you're trying to do in life gets easier when you are informed about it. You understand from top to bottom the 30,000-foot view of how the mechanics work, and then you dig in deep, you zoom in, and you look at each process. Like, okay, once you identify, I want to go H1B, or I want to go with the E1, right? Whatever route that you're going to take, then you zoom in and you learn as much as you can. Get informed; it will help you. So again, here's the website.
One last thing. Have you heard of green card lottery?
Yes.
DV lottery, yes. This is the time for it. So we can remind your followers to go to this government's website and sign up for a green card lottery and see if they win it. They don't need a sponsor. They don't need to be famous. They don't need to be
It's just
at
luck
the
of the
national
draw.
display. Yeah, it's like a person draw. So every year, 55,000 people gets it. So the website for it.
Do you know offhand what the website address is?
Yes, I'm telling you right now. It's called dvprogram.state.gov.
DV is in David Victor?
Yes, David Victor program.state.gov. The good thing about this is it doesn't cost any money. Well, first of all, you have to be included in the list of companies, countries which are eligible for this program. Not every national of every country is eligible, first of all, right? This is a diversity visa, so they're trying to increase the diversity in the United States. So if you are historically one of the nations that are represented in less numbers in the United States, then you will be eligible. So you first check if your country is eligible. If it is, just go there, fill out this information until November 8th. So you have until November 8th. This is once a year.
Okay.
They will, once you apply for it, they will give you a confirmation number. Hold on to it. The results will be announced in May of next year. If you win, you're going to have a chance at the green card, and a huge chance at that. So this is the easiest way to get the green card. So one last information for your followers.
No, I love it. I had no idea about this. So again, it's just the information that you shared and the education that you've given us over this past hour, I think is incredible. I am probably going to cut this video up into like 6 parts and write 6 blogs about it because it really has been fantastic. But I'm going to I'll give you credit for all of them, and I'll link your law firm and your LinkedIn profile in each one to help increase your visibility too. But man,
Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. If you're up for it again sometime in a couple months, I will have you back on, man, because
sure, let's do it.
Yeah, this has been amazing. Again, if you guys missed what he just said, if you're anywhere outside the United States and you want to be inside the United States without sponsorship, without anything, you can go to this website. I shared it. It's right here on the screen. I shared it. Click on that link. You have till November 8th. He said 55,000 people will be chosen. I think you said May 1st, just to clarify.
May 1st of next year it will be announced. But make sure your country is eligible first. Not every country is eligible.
Yeah, so check that list because you don't want to fill out the form and then realize, oh, dang it, Egypt isn't available or whatever, right? I don't know if they are. I'm not picking one. Anyways, okay. Well, any final nugget you want to impart? We don't have a hard stop. We can go a couple extra minutes. So if you have anything else that you really would like to say, I
just want to say there's a lot of options available in the U.S. immigration system. What you want to do is get the right advice and not the bad advice. Yeah. Sometimes people are going to tell you things that you want to hear, but they're not real. So be aware of spammers and scanners.
Oh my gosh.
So those kinds of things really put a dent on your dreams and your future plans. Personally, I would want to take a case if I think that it's going to be successful, because then client is happy, I'm happy, I have a good reputation. But I have the luxury of doing that. I have the luxury of saying this is a bad case, this is a good case. It can happen, it can happen. Not everybody is like that. So just be careful, work with licensed attorneys, and also if an immigration attorney is a member of the American Immigration Lawyers Association, that's always a good sign. That means that that person is taking care of this business and is taking this very seriously. So that's the last word on my end.
I have heard so many, I'm sure you have too, horror stories from people who have been ripped off or scammed. Let me just say this. I don't care if you're talking about immigration or anything else, guys. When it comes to the job search, you are not going to, let me just put it this way. If it sounds too good to be true,
Yes.
it almost always is, right? And you have to understand that there are predators out there. There are bad people with bad intentions. They want to prey on those who are desperate. So if you're coming at anything from a point that has desperation in it, you need to be guarded. Be careful. This is where I like not when you're moving in a group, when you're moving in a pack and you have more than one person involved in it, you have checks and balances to help safeguard you from getting ripped off. Okay. So like Remzi just said, now you know there's a group. Say it one more time for us. What was it? It was the group with the immigration
American Immigration Lawyers Association.
There you go. So if they're not a part of that, ask them why. Why aren't you a part? Maybe you know what I mean? But and then again, the recruiter can help you with this too. Like if you're getting the lawyer's information from the recruiter and you know the recruiter, that could help. That could be helpful, right? But try to get a point of reference. What I always tell people is like, if you don't know Remzi, if Remzi, you meet Remzi on LinkedIn and you're like, I'm not sure about this guy, you can go to his website and you can see that he's legit. There's ways to verify, right? Don't just take whatever information they give you at face value. Like if someone gives you a WhatsApp number and says, send me your bank account information and your, social security number, your ID, right? No, I'm not going to do like, we need to establish that you are legit before I'm giving you anything. So be careful. Again, if it sounds too good to be true, it is. It's too good to be true. It's a scam. And this is where informational interviews, again, can cover your butt, because talk to people who have gone through the process. You may hear when someone like Remzi says, hey, it's going to be $12,500 for phase 1. And you go, what? I can't believe it's that much money. You might think that's a scam, but then you talk to a couple other people who have done it and they go, oh yeah, that's what it costs for phase 1. It's $12,500. Okay. Now I know. Now I'm not, so sometimes we get sticker shock. That doesn't mean it's a scam, but talk to people who have done it. You could do that for just about everything in life, and that'll help you protect yourselves. Please. I just hate it when people give up their life savings for a dream and then they gave it to a crook. So be careful. Great advice, Remzi. Thank you so much for joining.
Sure.
Y'all, we'll be back. We'll be back next week. We're on every Wednesday. We didn't do any profile reviews today. We didn't get a lot of job search questions. That's okay. We had on an amazing guest who just blew our minds with information about green cards and visas, sponsorships, and the like. So thank you very much for being my guest. You guys, kulenlaw.com is how you find his website. Follow him on LinkedIn, Lisa, or me, or both. Will be back next Wednesday. Starts at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Very much. Bye, guys. BowmanDigitalMedia.com